Alright, this is the tier list. Hold up. Ignore the Lost Ark at the top. I don't know. We have 20 movies. 20 movies that I hand selected. Uh, Granted, these are not all my favorites. My favorite movies. I tried to get not the same movies from each franchise. Evidently, I did fail a bit with a couple. Uh, yeah, so that's fine. When it came to Marvel, I tried to get like one movie from each company. So like one movie from Disney, one movie from Fox, or one movie from Sony. That ultimately failed. So here we have a tier list. All of these movies are great. So the rankings like God, Amazing, Great, Good, and Mid are just among these movies. These are if I could choose, these will all go in God or Amazing for me if I could choose. But because it's among these movies, somebody's gotta get a low score. So yeah, let's start with Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is my personal favorite Star Wars movie. I love this movie with a passion. I think it does a great job at wrapping up the prequel series, like the wrapping up the prequel series, which should have been the end of the Skywalker saga right there, Revenge of the Sith. It brings Anakin's journey from child to Vader to at a close. It stops at a perfect point, and it becomes Vader. Then we move into evidently Rogue One, and then A New Hope. It's great. I think a lot of the acting can be cheesy at times. This is a space opera, so you can't really do anything about that. But a lot of the acting can be cheesy at times. But overall, I think the visuals are great. The characters are great. Some iconic moments such as Order 66. It's just you can't beat that. It's one of the most iconic. It's very very iconic and it's still referenced to this day. I'm gonna put, compared to the other movies I see here, I'm gonna put this on great. Compared to the other movies, this is phenomenal. It is a really good movie. I think just the other movies are better, in my opinion. Like I said, I think Revenge of the Sith could be overly cheesy at times. I think there were some points in the movie I was like, can we just get past this? Skip this. Like, I wouldn't say it has like dead spots. There are points that I was in the movie I was like, I'm not so sure about this one. So yeah, I think of course the iconic hello there for this movie, great. X-Men First Class, my personal favorite X-Men movie. I'm gonna have to put this in Amazing. Now this is not one that I can really speak on all too well because it has been a while and a bit since I've seen this movie. I barely remember anything. I know they made a questionable decision towards the end, but that's besides the point. I think this movie is great as a prequel series, as a prequel to the X-Men. Plain and simple, it brings characters that a lot of people didn't know, wouldn't have associated with like this movie. I can't say wouldn't associate it with like characters that you wouldn't have known, and they of course Magneto, Mystique, and Professor X, and put them in a prequel series to I guess you could say the original X-Men. I don't know what you would call this. I mean, on one hand, it's definitely a prequel because that was X-Men Apocalypse. X-Men Apocalypse is definitely definitely took place before then because what X-Men Apocalypse takes place in the 80s, doesn't it? Because of I think they were seeing Return of the Jedi. In that one movie, in that one scene where they're coming out of the movies, we're seeing Return of the Jedi, blah blah blah. But yeah, I think this movie, I think overall, is just amazing. I might move it down eventually, but overall, this movie is great. A Silent Voice, wow. Yeah, let me move this down. Great. I'm gonna move that. I'm gonna move First Class down. Great. A Silent Voice. I'm gonna go ahead and put that Amazing. This movie broke me the first time I watched it. This was one of those movies in which it had a concept that you'd think wouldn't work. It's a concept that is seen sometimes, not all the time, and the way that it's just executed this movie is phenomenal. You know, the main character coming to terms with his past and bullying this Steph girl way back when, and then seeing them become friends, and the guilt that he has after the guilt that he has when realizing that she's nice, that she's accepted him as a friend, but he did terrible things to them in the past. It's just heartbreaking. And then the whole suicide attempt at the end, the whole suicide thing at the end, and the fireworks, and just the visuals in general. This movie was great. I love this movie. This movie broke me the first time, and I think one of the reasons why I can't put it at God is because the way I judge a lot of my movies is based off of rewatchability. If I can rewatch a movie, then you've got a good movie. You've got a good movie. This is not a movie that I can rewatch because I genuinely feel as though it wouldn't hit as hard as it did the first time, because I know everything that happens, and I know that I know the emotions and the character development that each and every person went through. So I can't really say I can't really say I enjoy it as much as I did the first time. However, I'm gonna rewatch it tonight because I'm talking about it. I just basically want to watch this movie again. All right. Here's an interesting one. Back to the Future. Good. I think Back to the Future is one of those movies in which I have a sort of a love-hate relationship for. I love Back to the Future. I think it's a classic. I think it does a lot of things well. It just has this 80s charm to it that I can appreciate and love oh so much. Issue being, right, I think it's not an issue in this movie, but it causes issues in other movies. This is a time travel story. And I will discuss time travel when we get to Tenet down here. But, this is a time travel story, and it does it extremely well. It decides that, yeah, when you go back to the past, change something, come back to the future, and there you go. Future's changed. It's simple. It does that well. It does that great, and I think I'm not the biggest fan of time travel stories in general, but Back to the Future is just so good that I can't really deny it of a spot on this list. And it is a classic. It's a classic that everybody needs to go see. I'm stumbling with my words because I'm trying to come up with stuff on the spot to describe it, but it's really good. Rogue One. I'm going to put this also behind Revenge of the Sith because Rogue One is my second favorite Star Wars movie. I think this movie does everything well. I think the characters, how they play into the story, the character development of this squad that is trying to steal the Death Star plans, and their friendship, they're building friendship while trying to figure out a way to steal the plans, and the final battle in, I forget which planet it was, or where it was. That final battle, that scene where everybody dies, just hits. It will hit. It will hit after seeing everything that they went through. Of course, this movie, another thing, is also carried by that last scene at the end with Darth Vader that leads into A New Hope. That scene is phenomenal, and I love it. When Marnie was there, I want to put this up there with A Silent Voice. I love this movie with a passion. I don't think this is as good as A Silent Voice, but I think it's better than the others below it. I'm not going to say much about this movie because the more if I say something about this movie, it's not going to, the magic will be taken away discovering this movie. All you need to know about this movie is that it's great, it is heartbreaking to a certain degree, and the ending is really good. And it's a movie that I just gotta go back and rewatch because it is one of the best movies I've seen. And I watched this on HBO Max when they announced that Studio Ghibli stuff would be on there. So this was the first one that I watched, and to this day, it's still my favorite. Logan, I'll put this top of amazing because the thing with Logan is that there isn't anything inherently wrong with this movie. Like, I think this is my favorite X-Men movie, so I'm gonna move this down to top of great. Logan is one of those movies in which there isn't anything inherently wrong with this movie. It is amazing. It is objectively the best Marvel property, the best Marvel movie. Like, I think Infinity War is up there. X-Men First Class is my personal favorite X-Men movie. But if we're going based off like objectively and how it was made, Logan is the best movie. I talk about it in a quick review. I suggest you go watch that. But Logan, I guess I could spend a bit of time on a tiny bit of time on this. Logan does a great job at humanizing the character of Logan, Wolverine, and making it so that after everything he's been through, he just doesn't want to do it anymore. But that he's forced to, and is forced to take care of this girl and crippling, dying Professor X. But then things go horribly wrong. Spoilers: Professor X dies, and it does a great job at showing the emotion and the thinking of the character of Wolverine. You can really, it would be a stretch to call this a character study. It's not as big as a character study as like Batman down here, or even Joker. Definitely not as big as Joker. But I think it does a great job at showing the Wolverine character in a human light, not as just a comic book character. Catching Fire, mid. When it comes to compared to all these movies, I love Catching Fire. I think it's a great movie. I think the book is better. I've read the book. I think the book is better. But it is a great movie. It does a better job at expanding the Hunger Games and bringing in all these past winners, so that now it feels like that everybody else has a chance instead of Katniss or Peeta. Whereas, like in the first movie, you the thing is that you knew they were going to win, and you know they're going to win in this movie. The issue is that the way they ended it is like there are no winners or losers. Everybody lost. It's just essentially everybody lost. Like, of course, some people won and got out alive, but nobody came out unscathed. I mean, whereas in the first movie, you had like kids that are way younger than them, like Rue, and others that just didn't stand a chance. Whereas this one, everybody, I feel like, because they're winners, are on even ground, so you just don't know how it's going to go. Genuinely, it's just because of the fact that this movie isn't as good as the other movies is why it's down there at mid. No disrespect to Hunger Games, it's just not as good as the others. Infinity War. Infinity War. I'll put this at right here. No, right here. I really do like this movie. I think this movie is great. This is another movie in which I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with it. I think there could be some annoying parts about it, like, for example, Star-Lord. But this movie just... the sucker punch that is that ending, like the shock factor that you get. And I could spoil it because it's been out for 4 years now. Everybody, half of the Avengers, most of the Avengers die at the end. And like the shock factor, the sucker punch that was that, and then the emotion that went into the fight sequences, and genuinely how cool those sequences were. Like Thor's entrance was amazing. Thanos as a character, phenomenal. I think he does a great job of being a menacing villain. Granted, I like Darkseid more, but Thanos still does great overall. Great movie, a great beginning to the end of the MCU. As much as I just didn't like Endgame, at least I like Endgame, just not as much as other people. Knives Out, up here. Before Knives Out, I wasn't. I liked detective stories. I've read a lot of them. I've seen a decent amount of movies, but Knives Out was one of those movies in which it just had this charm. You take A-list. It's by no means is the greatest detective story in the world. This is very simple. The hints, but I think one of the things it does is it drops hints about it throughout the movie, and then all the actors, being A-list actors, play these characters amazingly and puts the emotion. Like every character is different. Every character has their own personality, and it's different in every single way. And you'd think that would be like it would clash and wouldn't be good, but it just meshes into this story of this family that just people that don't like each other. They are all bad people that are just going after money at the end of the day, and because that's what the movie is about, I think all these personalities mesh together perfectly, and that's what makes this movie great. I mean, I think the standout performance for me has to be Chris Evans. He did a great job as spoilers. He did a great job as the villain of the movie, the main villain, and is just amazing in every single way possible. But compared to like the next couple of movies on this list, like the next movie, it's not as good as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is going into God. This possibly has to be one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. Being a black male, a black kid, if you will, seeing all the stuff that Miles goes through, with his uncle, and then Gwen and Peter, and then also seeing the stuff in his personal life, I can relate. I can relate to it a lot. I'm not gonna say much about this movie because it's just a movie that you need. This is another movie like When Marnie Was There that you just need to go and watch and experience because it's just amazing in every single in every single way. This movie looks amazing. You can tell there's a lot of heart and passion that was put into this project. That's why I'm extremely excited, even though it just got delayed. Extremely excited for Across the Spider-Verse. Alright. Ooh, just like A Silent Voice, another movie that broke me when I first watched it. The Hate U Give. I don't think it's as impactful as a lot of movies in the same genre, but I chose this one because this is the one I had the most memories of. I remember breaking down after watching it because I think not so much the movie itself, but thinking about what it implicated, what it implied, and how it definitely shows real life. It is just real life, and I don't remember when I first watched this movie. I watched this movie on HBO Max, so it had to have been like midsummer that year. Which, in that case, I think it's why it hit me even harder because this was when the Black Lives Matter protests and the movements that started like kicking in the storm after George Floyd died, and it hit me hard because it just shows a side of the world that is so real. It doesn't make up anything. It doesn't make up anything. It's just, it felt extremely real, and I remember crying after this movie, not because of the movie itself, but because of me thinking about our world, and especially America, and the racism, and how just unfair a lot of stuff is for us. For us. So that's why I want to put this movie at the top of amazing. I think the aftermath of watching this movie is what made this amazing. The movie itself was like great. I think bottom of great. But the aftermath of what I watched this movie is phenomenal. I put this, I'll move it down, put it under When Marnie Was There. I mean, under Silent Voice. Alright. This is where things get interesting. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. My personal favorite Harry Potter movie. I loved Order of the Phoenix. I love Deathly Hallows. I love Sorcerer's Stone. Chamber of Secrets is a personal favorite of mine. I really did enjoy that movie. Half-Blood Prince was bad, and I just one of those people that did not like Prisoner of Azkaban. I know a lot of people did. I just couldn't do it. I'd rather read the book. The book is, for me, the book is amazing. The movie is meh, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Goblet of Fire. This movie, I think it has its issues. I think it definitely can have its issues. It is definitely a coming-of-age story, a growing-up story. I think, well, that could be good. It could also be executed terribly. And I think this movie lies just in the middle because it does a lot of things well. You know, teenagers get into drama for no apparent reason whatsoever. You see that all the time, and how they have to come to realize that they have to grow up and they can't be kids anymore. They have to realize that not everything is going to go their way, not everything is going to be amazing. They're going to see stuff in the real world that they're just not going to like. Hence the end of the movie with Voldemort and Cedric Diggory. But at the same time, it does those well as, like, you know, while Harry and Ron are fighting and arguing and all of that, I think the way they treat Hermione was not great, as well as the fact that some of those scenes come off kind of forced. They can come off kind of forced, kind of just uncomfortable. I hate watching any uncomfortable, awkward stuff. So, for me, I think Goblet of Fire would probably go, like, with when Marnie was there, down a bit, top of great, but Goblet of Fire was a phenomenal movie. Dune. Dune, I feel like I would have appreciated more if I saw it in theaters. I didn't see it in theaters, which is unfortunate, but I feel like I would have appreciated Dune more if I had seen it in theaters, because that movie, even looking at it on I have a TV right here. It's like, I can't remember if it's 4K or not, but even looking at this TV that I got maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, this movie is just amazing. This movie looks amazing on this TV. So imagine how it looked like IMAX or theater. The visual design, the VFX, as well as the music, the amount of world building that goes into this movie is amazing. I think my thing is that I would have appreciated more if I had seen it in theater. So I'm gonna have to put it like right here. If I had seen it in theaters, I probably would have enjoyed it. That's what I'm excited for Dune 2. I think all the characters and the conflict and how it's just like it's essentially a political, like you could play a political science fiction movie. There's a lot of passion and care put into this movie, and I can't wait to do a quick review on it at some point. Promare, what a movie! For a while, this was my favorite anime movie. I can't say that anymore because I'm thinking about it. I think Silent Voice on when Marnie was there was just better. But Promare, great animation, great characters. It's essentially Fire Force, but better, the way I see it. If I critique it, I think some of the characters can be very annoying. I think some of the characters are alright. I think it's one of those movies in which you can either add a couple of minutes or cut it a couple of minutes, and nobody would know the difference. So, great movie. We'll have to put it at top of good, though, because just comparatively, it's not as good as these. Then there's Raiders of the Lost Ark. Hunger Games is the only nah, never mind. I can't say that. Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is just a classic. At the end of the day, this is like the very definition of a classic. It is great. It's a lot of fun. Harrison Ford does a phenomenal job as Indiana Jones. It's a movie I haven't seen in a while, in a bit, but I remember a lot of it well. And I remember having a lot of fun and laughing a lot, and just having fun on this adventure, if you will. Alright, let me put this back. Put these two back. I want to save those two for last. Batman. God. This movie. I'm going to put the top of God. This movie was amazing. I love this movie so much. I recently rewatched it on HBO Max. It's just as good as the first time. I think the story, when it comes to the detective story, like I said, Knives Out, with Knives Out, it's not the greatest detective story in the world, but for a Batman movie with the Riddler and based off of both Zodiac and Seven, I think it was great. It's has action, but it's not like pure action action movie like a Batman movie has been in the past. And that's why I think that this one is better. The action scenes that it does have are all great. The way the movie was shot, I think some of those shots are phenomenal. I love the music. The music is great. I think the actors are great. I said this quick review. They all play to the story of Gotham, and as Gotham seems like a character in this movie, if you will. And watch my quick review. I go into much better detail with it because I think I made that quick review maybe a week after watching the movie. But yeah, watch that quick review for my full in-depth thoughts about the movie. Snyder Cut, top of amazing. I just comparatively, I can't put it at God. Not amazing. At God, yeah. This movie was everything I wanted to be and more, and I just compare it to the other two, and I can't put it up there because I think all the characters are great. I think all the shots are great. I think Flash running to the Speed Force is one of the best comic book scenes of all time. The comic book movie scenes of all time. It is plain and simple. I would rather watch that over the Avengers Assemble Endgame. That scene was just it was emotional and it looked amazing, and the music that was playing leading up to it was just phenomenal. Yeah, it was great. I think if they added a couple of the other like characters, like the cameos with like Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern, would have been great. Like a lot of these movies, I feel like Logan and Snyder Cut, there's like, for me at least, there's nothing inherently wrong, but my enjoyment of the movie, my rewatchability, is hindered a bit by the fact that I just can't. I would rather watch these movies over them. Speaking of rather watching these movies over them, The Matrix, top of God. This is my favorite movie of all time. I think really is much to say about it. It hasn't aged well. It hasn't. It has not aged well at all. But the first time I saw it, I loved it. It's still a great sci-fi movie to this day. It pioneered a lot of the stuff that you see in movies today, and some of the movies on this list for that matter. And it just mattered. The characters were just so cool. The world was so cool. It was so disturbing as well. And the fight for their lives not being controlled by machines was great. Those machines are creepy. The scenes, like the sci-fi scenes, like Bullet Time, and the scene in the bank where there's money flying everywhere, and Neo and Trinity are using guns. I feel like classic memes that like guns, lots of guns, and then a lot of it just builds up into one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, like the best movie I've ever seen, and it's. I don't think a movie can top it for me, because every time I go watch it, I go into thinking that this movie's aged. I'm not going to enjoy it as much as I did, but I constantly keep enjoying it, and I love this movie. I think the sequels are bad. I think Reloaded was fine. Revolutions was trash, and then Resurrections I actually enjoyed more than the average person. But Matrix is still an all-time favorite of mine. I love it. Lastly, Tenet. I don't know whether to put this one at God or mid. I think watching Tenet, right? Watching Tenet is one of those movies in which I would rather I watch the movie for the plot, not I don't watch the movie for the plot. I watch it for the vibe. I watch this movie for the vibe, not the plot. because the vibe of Tenet, like, everything is so cool, and the whole reversing the time thing and how that concept works as a vibe, and this in the world is just amazing. The plot, yeah, the plot is trash. It is not a good plot at all. It's overly confusing. They build up with characters and concepts that just don't that should not work. And yeah, I'm gonna have to put it at bottom of mid. This is a movie that should not work, but it does, and I love it for it. The vibes are amazing, the plot is trash, and that's why I enjoy Tenet as much as I do. I don't go into Tenet thinking, how am I going to misunderstand time travel today? Because time travel is confusing in this movie is also confusing. But yeah, Tenet, great movie, I love it. That is the list. That's the tier list. At God's tier, we have The Matrix, The Batman, Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, Amazing, Snyder Cut, Knives Out, Goblet of Fire, X-Men First Class, A Silent Voice, The Hate You Give, Great, When Marnie Was There, Logan, Avengers, Infinity War, Dune, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, and Rogue One. Good, Promare, Back to the Future, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Mid, Catch a Fire, and Tenet. Now, like I said, all of these I think are great movies. Just when I think of like among themselves, I had to rank them accordingly, and the way I see it, mid does not mean that they're bad or just okay movies. Just compared to the rest, they're just not as good. I still love all these movies, still enjoy them. Yeah, so thank you for watching the tier list. That's the end of the YouTube video, I hope. See you next time. Bye.